I'm Willie Mae McIver for Beyond the Praise. Today we have the pleasure of having with us the President and CEO of the National Urban League. It is Marc Morial. Welcome, Marc.
Hey, good morning, and great to be with you this morning.
Great to have you here. Now, we are so excited because the Town Hall on the State of Black America is airing tonight on TVONE, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Give us a little background information on how these Town Hall meetings got started.
Yes, and so thank you so much, and thanks to TVONE for partnering with the National Urban League to bring to viewers all across the nation tonight a Town Hall conversation about the state of Black America. Now, for 41 years, the National Urban League has released a report each year called the State of Black America Report. So people know the President issues the State of the Union. Well, the President of the National Urban League issues the State of Black America Report. And that report really talks about the social and economic conditions that African Americans and Hispanics face in comparison to whites in America. So this year's report really looks at the last year, the Obama administration, but it also looks at the first several months of the new Trump administration. And I think it's fair to say that in the Obama years, after the deep and difficult challenges of the recession, when millions of people lost jobs and homes, we began to come back. Black Americans' unemployment rate declined, high school graduation rates improved, high school dropouts decreased to some extent, and health disparities narrowed through the Obama years, with continuing difficulty because our loss of wealth never returned. It's not yet returned since the recession. So we look at that. But the theme is protect our progress. And there'll be a discussion tonight moderated by Roland Martin, including Michael Eric Dyson and Teray and Simone Sanders and Angela Rye. A lot of great commentators to talk about where we are today and how we have to protect our progress.
What's on top of mind for a lot of African Americans still are jobs. What do you all perceive we can do to bring more jobs back to African Americans?
Many things. So we've got to continue to emphasize and push education, finishing high school, going to community college, four-year college, or technical school. With more skills, the jobless rate is lower. That's an absolute fact. It's always been a fact. Number two, we need policies at the state level, the federal level, that encourage investment and job creation in America's urban centers. We've got to take these abandoned buildings, these abandoned houses, the great opportunities that exist. We need to see that. Thirdly, we need to see a re-emphasis on jobs for youth. Summer jobs should be at the top of the list for every city, every state, and we need the private sector to do its part in providing job opportunities for our young people. I think thirdly, I'd like to see Congress and the President get together on a true, meaningful infrastructure plan. We could put lots of people to work building bridges, building houses, building roads, building parks, building playgrounds, building libraries, building health centers in America's urban communities, like Franklin Roosevelt did in the 1930s when the economy of America was challenged by the Great Recession. We need this Congress, and we need this President, and we need them to step up and think big and think boldly about how to rebuild America and put people back to work. I live in the Northeast. Many of the railroad tracks are deteriorated. They need substantial upgrades. Finally, because for many years these tracks were not upgraded, the trains are slow. The trains, the risk of accidents and problems are much higher. This is an issue of necessity. So there are many things we can do on the jobs front. And we can never forget that we also need strong enforcement of civil rights laws to make sure that no one is discriminated against in employment because of race, because of gender, because of religion, because of any other of these artificial constructs. So there's so much we need to do, and a lot of this is going to be discussed tonight at the State of Black America. The final thing I'll say is self-employment through business development. We've got to nurture, we've got to encourage the many people in our communities who are working to build businesses so that they can be self-employed and be their own bosses.
Wow, that's great. And I'm sure you all are also going to talk about healthcare in the United States and what's going on with that.
Yes. Great discussion about healthcare. care, great concerns about the repeal of the Affordable Care Act. We've got to protect, quote-unquote, Obamacare. Not because it's perfect, but because it's better than everything else. If someone comes up with a better plan, please show it. Yeah. Show me a better plan, and I'd be willing to support it. But we're not going to support a plan that strips away health coverage to 20 million Americans. We're not going to support a health plan that cuts back on Medicaid. We're not going to support a health plan that makes it more difficult for people to access mental health services. We're not going to support a health plan that strips away protections for pre-existing conditions. So we've got to push strong because the evidence is clear and the data is there that the Affordable Care Act, sometimes called by others Obamacare, has made a difference when it comes to closing the gap between whites and blacks when it comes to health coverage and health outcomes in this nation. I think I can safely speak for the National Urban League, Urban League affiliates around the nation, and the broader civil rights community. I think that the broader civil rights community will not support any effort to really turn the hands of time back. We've got to go forward, not backwards, and we cannot play games with people's lives, with people's health, with the health of their parents, with the health of their children.
Yes, you're absolutely right about that. Well, you all have a healthy, robust discussion on the criminal justice system, the police brutality, and what we can do to combat that.
And what you just mentioned are the civil rights issues of the 21st century, the broken criminal justice system and how we need to reform it. Now, what's important to recognize is that there are criminal justice reform efforts underway in many, many states across the nation, even though the current administration under Attorney General Sessions has indicated a desire to retrench on some of the criminal justice reforms that President Obama pushed. Many states, governors and state legislators are taking matters into their own hands, proposing reductions in mandatory minimums, proposing alternatives to incarceration, proposing a focus on rehabilitation, focusing on ban the box. All of these measures at the state and local level are important for criminal justice reform. So let's remember, while there are efforts in Washington to turn the hands of time and turn the policy hands of time backwards, there are efforts in local communities, in state legislatures all across the nation to continue to push these sensible, common sense policies of equity and fairness.
Do you feel that the current new administration will help us, hurt us, or will at some point in time be willing to work with us?
Let me say this. I would hope that there's going to be a real meaningful willingness to work with us. However, the budget proposal particularly is troubling because there's nothing in that budget proposal that indicates that the director of the OMB who put this budget together for the president heard or read or saw any of the things that many of us have been saying about how devastating cuts to education, cuts to community development, cuts to housing, cuts to cities, cuts to public transit would be for people who live in urban and suburban communities, big and small towns. Those voices have not been heard. So while OMB didn't hear it, we're going to make sure Congress hears those voices. Because Congress will have the last say on these budget cuts. So I'm asking every city council across the nation to pass a resolution in opposition to these budget cuts. We're asking every community and civic organization to pass a resolution to communicate aggressively to Congress about the negative impact that these budget cuts will have.
Wow. That's great. That is great. I'm so excited and looking forward to seeing the town hall on the state of Black America this evening on TVONE at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. After watching the town hall meeting, what do you want African Americans to walk away with? What do you want them to do? Is there a call to action?
There's a call to action, and the first thing we want people to know is that the conversation doesn't end with the town hall. They can continue on Twitter, on Facebook, by following us on social media. They can also dig deeper into the information the statistics, the commentary, the perspectives in the State of Black America report by looking at the State of Black America report online. What I hope people will realize is that this is a time when we must stay woke. We cannot simply be spectators or observers in our community. We must be active and involved. And that's really the call to action. We can't sit back and say, what will someone do? We have to take the bull by the horns, put our hands on the reins, grab the steering wheel and say, what will we do to protect our progress?
President and CEO of the National Urban League, Marc Morial, we thank you for being with us this morning. Continued success in all that you do, and let us know how we can help you out.
And I appreciate you so much, and good morning to Dallas.
Thank you, and God bless. I'm Willie Mae McIver for Beyond the Praise.